Let me ask you this, O2. Against the Grizzlies, Cade Cunningham's on the floor. Who's the best player on the court between Detroit and Memphis? I mean, it would definitely be between Cade, Dez, and Jaren Jackson Jr., right? You agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. Like, really, it would be between Cade and Jaren. And Jaren's a defensive player of the year. Like, he's gotten better offensively every single season. Like, he's absolutely a cornerstone player. But I think it's between him and Cade, and I think Cade edges out Ja simply because not only is Cade an offensive engine, but he's giving you something on defense too. And like, that's just like Josh just more of a spry 6'2", 6'3". It's just certain stuff Cade could do that Ja can't. So, I mean, I think you can make an argument for Cade, absolutely. I just think Jaren, even after winning DPOY, is still one of the more underrated guys in this league.
Yeah, so that's my thing is, let's just say Cade is. Let's give it to Cade. But then the thing is, they have Jaren Jackson Jr., and then you go to the next player, and it's Desmond Bane. And then my thing is with the Sacramento Kings, they have DeRozan, LaVine, and Sabonis. And so, listen, I love Asar, and I think he's going to be awesome. But we're talking about guys that are established veterans in this league, where Asar is in year 2 coming off an offseason where he didn't get an offseason and, had a late start to the year. My point is, this has been an incredible season for the Pistons, Omari, but there's going to be games where they can't match the other team's number 2 when the other team's number 2 gets it going, let alone in the Kings case. Like, I think Sabonis had a quiet triple-double because LaVine and my thing was DeRozan kept them in that game when Detroit was trying to blow it open. And then when DeRozan had to go sit down, they had LaVine to go crazy in that moment. And then all along the way, they had Sabonis, creating and scoring and rebounding and all of that. And so these 2 games more for me just showed, and this is okay, I'm not trying to move the goalpost on this season. It just shows me that the next most important piece for this team, Omari, is finding the number 2 guy. And maybe that guy's on the roster, maybe he's not. But Cade is the dude, and we've seen that. All NBA caliber player. What these 2 things reminded me is they have to find who the number 2 guy is, whether that's J.I., whether it's Ron, or whether it's Asar. And I wonder if we won't see that play out in the playoffs also.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough that when you lose J.I. the way you did, like right as the team's starting to find itself and, gain the confidence and momentum that they have now, because he potentially could be that number 2 guy, or at least not close enough to it, to where if a game does just kind of become a shootout like it did, last night against the Kings, like you have somebody else who could step up. And like for the Pistons, you have Cade. Some nights it's going to be THJ, some nights it's going to be Bees, but you have role players who are not always
done it. Tobias has done it at times, right? But it's been a revolving door of the number 2.
Exactly. Like, you don't know who it's going to be on any given night, and it kind of just comes down to those guys getting hot, and that's their role. Like, that's not an issue with them. It's just, you don't want them to be number 2. You want them to be playing off of your number 1 and your number 2. And like, it's just evident in games like last night that the Pistons have a weakness there. Like, honestly, I would say their offense has punched above its weight class overall this season. I want to say that they're 14 in offensive rating, which is, slightly above average, obviously. So that just speaks to, how well the pieces fit offensively, and how much Cade has lifted this team. But there's always a pretty clear difference between, the Pistons against teams that have 1 guy and, against teams that have 2 or more guys. And if the defense isn't clicking like it wasn't last night, then, things could flip against them pretty quickly. So it goes back to defense, but it also just shows long-term that you do have to find that number 2 at some point.
And we're going to get back to this, but I spent my time doing some research today, so I want to talk about it. I went back and looked at the last 10 years of conference finalist teams. So that's 40 different teams, because I just wanted to get a feel for what does this look like to really compete? So O2, I already told Wes these numbers, so he can't guess. What do you think the average points per game for a number team's number 1 scoring option has been over the last 10 years? So 40 teams in the conference finals. What do you think the average scoring points per game for the number 1 option on a team is?
Yeah, I would guess I would guess around 25.
Perfect. 25.8. And
Okay.
so here's what's crazy. You know what Cade Cunningham is averaging right now?
25.8.
Yeah, 25.9.
25.6 or 8 or something like that. Yeah.
25.9. So it's like, okay, that matches the number one. Here's where I really went into it. I felt like Cade was probably putting up the numbers. What do you think the number two option on average per game for those 40 teams?
I would guess around like 19.9 or something like that, like right around 20.
Not bad. 20.8. So
20.8. Okay.
to that point, J.I. was averaging 17.6 before he went out. Beasley averages 16.2. All I'm saying here, and listen, there was some outlier teams, right? Like the lowest number is actually 14.5. Like, and then you have like the Hawks teams. The 14-15 Hawks, if you remember those, 16.7 was the highest number on that team. But they had 4 All-Stars on that team. So
that's what I was thinking. I'm like, from like the mid 2000s to like the mid 2010s, there's going to be some teams that were barely cracking 20 points for sure.
Yeah, so there's some another outlier team is the Monty Williams Suns team. Devin Booker averaged 25.6, but number 2 scorer on that team was 16.4, and they were 5th in offensive rating that season. All I'm saying is sometimes when they lose these games that really turn into offensive battles, and some people may point to defense, like that's the answer, but it's because they don't have that night in and night out number 2 guy. And again, I'm not saying that J.I., Holland, Asar may not be those guys. It just, when I did the data, it's like, okay, it looks like they probably need a guy that's going to be close to 20 points per game to do this. And right now they don't. And that's okay. It was just kind of interesting little exercise and data that I put together.
Yeah. And there's probably been like 5 or 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 games since J.I.'s injury. Where I thought, man, if Pistons had J.I., like they had a chance to win this one. So let's say you get like, 4 or 5 of those games, like now you're flirting with a 50-win season. So like it really does show it's right there. And, and that's something, and, we'll talk about this a lot, obviously, in the future, but how do you approach that? Like when you decide you want that guy and, does J.I. in year 4, basically, is he somebody that could fill those shoes as well and pick up where he left off?